So have you ever wondered, instead of buying a brand new diesel truck, just restoring one and building it the way you want to? Because let's face it, nowadays when you purchase a brand new diesel, it's almost realistic to spend $90,000+. I mean, really just $100,000 on a brand new truck. And that even goes for gasoline vehicles in some right as well. Several years and thousands of man hours have been put in to make this video possible. So do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe. I put that same logic to the test by building my own diesel truck from the ground up, an older truck, and all the little specifications that I wanted. In this video, I'm gonna pick apart the build and do a complete build cost. But more importantly, was it worth it? This is a 2005 Silverado. I actually took two trucks and built one. One was a 2003. I took the drivetrain out of it and put it in here. The one previously was a GMC, but basically the same thing, just different body style. But it has no lift. It's sitting on a set of 22x12s on 33s. It has two turbos in it. One's an S480. This is a compound turboed LB7 Duramax, so it does have a 03 first generation Duramax in it. In my opinion, one of the best engines when it comes to turbo diesels if you want to go ahead and build it for power when it comes to Duramax. I do have a PPE dual fueler setup in it right here. This is a second injection pump. The other one's in the valley. One is a 10mm S&S diesel injection pump. Of course, the AirDog 220 GPH lift pump. The list goes on. Full built Garand transmission from Kodiak truck. Basically, rear end, transfer case, transmission, engine has all been completely rebuilt. And I don't think I cut a whole lot of corners on this build. There's been a lot of money thrown at this thing. And unfortunately, it's still not completely done. You know, there's a lot of loose ends I still need to tie up. But for the most part, she's a running, working truck. I think I only put, since I finished the build, I think I only put about 200 miles on this engine. So it's pretty much brand new at this point. After a painstaking amount of time trying to add up all of the money that I spent on this truck, how much money in parts did it take to build a truck brand new? The exact figure came out to $74,025.78. And that's not including labor. I mean, let's face it, who in their right mind would spend that amount of money, I mean $74,000 in parts, just to restore an old rusty 2004 Silverado? But it all goes back to 2019. A friend of mine contacted me and told me that he has a truck that flipped over in a cornfield. It was a 2003 GMC Sierra with an LB7 Duramax diesel engine in it. Now the truck ran perfect, but the body was completely destroyed. Now Jake, the gentleman that sold me this Duramax, which by the way, he's not with us anymore, which also sort of makes this build special, he sold the truck to me for only $2,700. And the biggest deciding factor initially when I purchased the truck was to build it for my wife. I have a YouTube channel, I build a lot of cool diesel trucks, but I've never built one for the wife on the channel. Not only did I think this was going to be an awesome idea for content for the channel, but my wife was going to have one of the best trucks in our fleet. Given the fact that this is a 2003, we did have a little bit of fun with it before we tore it down. But after that, I did find a 2005 Silverado 2500 HD. It had zero anything on it. This thing was basically classified as a roller. It just needed an engine, transmission, transfer case, but it did have a rear end and a front differential. I had two trucks, I needed to make one. I named this thing the Wife Max, and that's exactly how this journey started. But let's just dive into the specifications really quickly here, and let's just see if the math adds up or if this even makes any sense. So if you went to the dealership right now and purchased a brand new 2024 Silverado with a turbo diesel in it, you're looking at a bill of close to $84,000. Now a 2024 comes with 470 horsepower, 975 pound-foot of torque. It is equipped with the Allison 10-speed transmission and a max payload of 36,000 pounds. I did want to factor the weight into the specifics as well. So this truck will weigh approximately 7,578 pounds. Now if you were to look at a 2003 Silverado, and let's just say it was pristine, it was mint, it only had like 10,000 miles on it. This truck was equipped with the LB7 Duramax turbo diesel with 300 horsepower, 520 pound-foot of torque, and an Allison 5-speed transmission. The max payload on this is 12,000 pounds, and for some of you guys that pull a fifth wheel, you're looking at a max payload of 14,900 pounds. And the exact weight on this truck with an extended cab short bed will bring you at 5,436 pounds. So the difference here is 175 horsepower, 455 pound-foot of torque, and then your weight, you're gonna be an extra 2,142 pounds, and the towing capacity for the L5P Duramax, a newer 2024, you're gonna get an increase of 21,100 pounds max payload. I mean, that's a significant jump. 455 pound-foot of torque and an extra 175 horsepower. But if you think about it with simple tuning nowadays, you can very much get close to that. But as far as driveline, the chassis, for example, the chassis on the truck right here behind me is more of a C shape. And the newer 2024 chassis are all boxed in. A lot more strength on the newer trucks. And I think that's exactly why you can haul a lot more. But think about it, if you put your own blood, sweat, and tears into a truck that you want to make your own, and you buy an older diesel for $20,000 in great shape, and then you put that additional $64,000 into the build to make it your own, that's a lot of coin. But let's be real, nowadays $64,000 is really not gonna get you much. In some cases, the paint job might even come out to $30,000 and see what you got left. So a lot of this has to go towards your own sweat equity. How much labor and how much time and how much skill, what kind of tools do you have to make this build right? If you were to pay a shop their labor time and their labor rate, I don't know if it would be exactly worth it. But when it comes to sheer horsepower and torque, I'm gonna say that this truck that I built with that amount of money is close to 1,000 horsepower, which is nearly double the power that a newer 2024 can make. But if I'm doubling power for the same amount of money it would take to buy a brand new truck at a dealership, in my opinion, I think that would be a win. If you were to come to me right now with a blank check and said, how much do you want for your truck? I'm gonna go ahead and answer that at the end of the video, so definitely watch. But there is a number value I would actually take for this vehicle. On the title, the thumbnail of this video, you guys saw that big price tag of $114,000. I'm also gonna show you guys where I came up with that figure as well. But let's just jump right into it. So for both trucks, so we're just gonna call this a 2005 Silverado because that's what the truck is now. The number value came out to $3,600 for both vehicles. And then the engine, which is an LBZ, so it's an 06 block Duramax. I will touch very gently on all the mods to the bottom end that were done to this truck. And this build came from Miller Engines in Pennsylvania. Big shout out to those guys for helping me get all of this together. But the price tag for everything on the bottom end came out to $14,368.08. As far as tuning goes, Calibrated Solutions, Duramax tuner, big shout out to those guys as well for getting this truck dialed in. It does have a set of PPE cast iron heads. Now before that, the stock ones are aluminum heads, but in this Duramax, they're cast iron. They're also injectorless cups. So there's no injector sleeves in there to fail, which is kind of neat. But those heads came out to a total of $2,699.96. Now when it comes to fueling, I went with 100 overs from S&S Diesel. Those injectors cost $3,889.60. The 10mm S&S CP3 pump, which is a Valley diesel injection pump, came out to $2,000. As stated in the beginning of the video, this truck is equipped with a PPE dual fueler kit, which came out to $1,799.99. I did have a stock CP3 here in the garage, so I didn't actually buy a second one, which is good. Now, unfortunately, HSP Diesel does not sell a twin turboed kit or compound turbo kit for a LB7 Duramax anymore, but luckily I still had the parts before they discontinued it, which came out to a total of $2,154.20. The truck is also equipped with 70-inch traction bars, which came out to a total of $760. I have a set of HSP billet valve covers, which came out to $595. And on a side note, the HSP exhaust manifolds, these things are sweet. They look good, they perform awesome. They're gonna keep your exhaust gas temperatures a lot lower than stock. Definitely a really good option. But they came out to $1,250. HSP up pipes, $498.95. The HSP thermostat forward-facing housing came out to $390. The HSP coolant tank, $440. And then when talking about turbo setups, I have a Ryan's Diesel Service S480 is the big turbo, came out to $1,500. And of course in the Valley, I have an RDS 68mm turbo. It is a 10-blade turbo. I don't believe that they offer a 9-blade turbine on the LB7 Duramaxes. I'm not too sure if they provide that, but I have a 10-blade. Doesn't really matter. Only difference really in my opinion is sound. As previously stated, I have an AirDog lift pump, 220 GPH or gallon per hour, came out to $899, but I am an authorized dealer for AirDog. So if you guys are interested in purchasing a lift pump, check out my website, truckmasterdiesel.com. I gotta plug that in because a lot of you guys don't know that. So if you wanna buy a lift pump for your diesel, either it be a Duramax, Powerstroke, or Cummins, I will leave that information in the description. Some of those companies will be in the description below as well if you guys wanna build up your diesel. I do have a 4-inch exhaust to a 3-inch downpipe coming from the Diesel Dudes. That came out to $1,000. I have a rebuilt, or I like to call a built, Kodiak 261 HD transfer case. This came out to $1,586. Kodiak truck track-right posi rear end. I did not put a price tag on that one because that was sort of a sponsored deal that I did as far as making a video there. But I'll talk a little bit more about sponsorships at the end of this video as well, so you guys have an understanding of how that works. Now, the 5-speed Allison transmission is fully outfitted with Garand parts. I think the only thing not billet in this transmission is the planetary gears. Everything else is billet, so this thing is super strong. It's going to handle a lot of power. If you've been following me for some time, when I pulled the sled, I dirt dragged it, I dynoed it that one day there at Freedom Truck Meet a couple years ago. I actually snapped the output shaft on the trans, and I had 7 neutrals. But after that, I put the truck on the trailer. I went straight to Wisconsin to Kodiak Truck, and I had Mark fully rebuild this transmission. I did a full video on it. You've probably seen it before, but I'm glad this truck is bulletproof when it comes to the transmission. I do have the Garand R converter, which came out to $2,000. And by the way, the full transmission build came out to $6 grand. As far as independent front suspension pieces, the whole front end of this truck is kryptonite. I'm talking HD tie rods, center link, pitman arm, idler arm, ball joints, upper control arms, the list goes on. Really pricey, but definitely worth it. I'm not going to compare this front end to a straight axle front end of like a Ford. I'm not going to say it's that strong, but I'll tell you what, it's probably pretty close as far as I'm concerned, because I put this thing through the ringer on the track, and you will never see those front tires do that. But all of the kryptonite stuff came out to a whopping $2,000, and of course that's with me installing all the parts. And if you missed that video, I went to ProMax in Big Bend, Wisconsin, where they powder coated absolutely everything I wanted them to powder coat. I took the frame completely off of the truck. I trailered all the little parts and pieces, the leaf springs, the drive shafts, everything, tore everything apart, and I had them sandblast it and powder coat it, and it came out amazing. And at that point, I reassembled the frame at the house and started putting the truck all back together. But as far as powder coating, it came out to around $5,000. The California rust-free bed came out to $2 grand, and we did a complete body restoration, and I'm talking cab corners, rockers, paint job, everything. I did want to respray it the same exact GM white that they have on here, but we did add a little bit of a pearl to it. It is called a magenta pearl, so it's kind of a pink purple for the wife. Not only does it match the illusion violet on the powder coating, but it also matches the paint job. And in the sun, this thing just glistens purple and pink. It looks pretty sweet. But that came out to a total of about $15,000 for everything there. And then Hoosier Hills came over here, which they're from Indiana. Big shout out to those guys. And they came out with all the last pieces of the puzzle that I needed for all of the other small powder-coated parts that I needed for that engine bay to really make it look good. For example, the battery covers, the master cylinder, the front engine shroud, it all looks amazing. A lot of cosmetic stuff, but in my opinion, if I'm going to build this thing to make it look good, that was an A+. But all those parts came out to $820. Now, as far as the engine oil pan, the transmission pan, and the differential cover, all of that stuff came from PPE. With all of the power upgrades that I did to the truck, I did go with the SoCal billet flex plate, which came out to $799. As far as the interior goes, I did reupholster everything to leather. The company I went with is called The Seat Shop. They're out of Texas. That came out to about $1,500. And then I have a set of 22-inch Vision rockers on 33s. Came out to around $3,000. But with the cost of the new engine parts, brakes, brake lines, fuel lines, all the hardware, everything totaled out to around $5,000. And I know this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you, but I'm going to throw the no sense value at you because realistically, me personally, I have about 1,500 hours into this project on my own. That's not including all the other guys that's worked on this vehicle that I've traveled to other states away to get this thing dialed in. But I had about 1,500 hours into that. So if you were to say the normal diesel labor rate would be $100 an hour, which by the way, nowadays it's a lot more, that would come out to $150,000 just in labor. Is that realistic? No, it's not. I would never get my time back for that. And that's not gonna even include hotel, travel, food, editing time, because I've probably made about 50 videos on this truck, and my normal average hourly time that it takes for me to make one YouTube video can average between 4 to 9 hours just for one video. Like realistically, I would charge about $40,000 for all of my time put into this truck. $40,000 I think is very, very much realistic. If I added the $40,000 on top of the $74,025.78, I would come out to a grand total of $114,025.78. That's insane. I mean, we're talking about a 19, 20-year-old Duramax. That's crazy. I mean, why would anybody in their right mind do that? Biggest reason for me, I have a YouTube channel. That's the biggest reason. It was a fun process getting my wife involved in it. But not only that, I do generate income when I make YouTube videos. There's no secret there. The only way that this would make sense to me is if I was actually making money making YouTube videos on this truck. So I was generating income, making YouTube videos, thus supported the funding to build this truck. It only made sense. Now, did I really spend $74,000 on this truck? No, I didn't. Not out of pocket. A lot of these companies came through. A lot of these companies sponsored me. I'm not saying that they fully sponsored me. I can guarantee you that I have over $30,000 out of pocket in this truck. If YouTube wasn't a part of my job, I would never do anything like this. And not only that, the information was invaluable because I was able to do a lot of how to install videos on this, a lot of problem solving, diagnostics videos as well to help share the diesel community information. A lot of the videos that I make in a lot of these YouTube series are really just information to help you guys. And that's one thing I absolutely love, man. It's like living the dream when it comes to working in America, is to make your own way. And I think that's so cool. And I thank the Lord every day. I am so blessed to be able to do this and share this stuff with you guys. It's so cool. And I know that there's gonna be a lot of people in the comments that are gonna bash this truck. Why in the world would you put those stupid wheels on it? Why would you do it like this? I would do it like that. And honestly, that's okay. Let me know what you think in the comments. That is totally fine. The direction on this build was what the wife and I talked about, and this is what we came up with. And I am so happy with it. I'm glad I didn't lift it. I'm glad I didn't do other things to it. And by the way, this truck is a riot to drive. It is so fast. But man, there's so much more to go over, and I'm sure you guys can appreciate and understand the time involved. And if you're spending any time watching my newer videos with the Sunkist build, it's kind of the same process of rescuing a 20-year-old Duramax from a scrapyard. I did that with this, and I'm also doing it currently. So if you're just stopping by, subscribe and watch some of these newer videos that I'm posting, and we're almost done wrapping that one up. I'm so pumped about it. We already have the rims in. We just need to get the front bumper trimmed and painted in the rear bumper. But for the most part, that truck is about 90% done. But in conclusion, what would I take to sell this truck? What would be the number? Yes, I will take that for this truck. Honestly, I wouldn't. It'd be hard for me to sell it. But if you gave me $80,000 for this truck, I would take it. Does that make any sense? No. Actually, it kind of does make sense, because if you ever wanted to build a truck at this caliber, starting from the ground up and not actually doing anything, just writing a check, I think $80,000 is definitely worth it, in my opinion. And it goes all the way back to the beginning of this video as far as buying a brand new truck versus buying an old truck and restoring it. I went down this route, and it's safe to say that there's no regrets. I'm glad that I was able to do this. It was a fun journey. NADA Blue Book value for this truck would only bring about $12,000. I looked it up. In perfect shape, mint, like never used, 2005 Silverado, you're looking at $18,000 to $20,000. But for me to jump to that $80,000 mark, that's insane. When realistically, with my time and everything put together, I'm trying to be realistic with this. Yeah, it very well could have been $115,000 for someone else to build this thing with their labor and parts. But that's my explanation. I am done, wrapped up with the build on this truck. The next build is almost finished. I'm so pumped to reveal that to you as well. We'll see you on the next one. Stay tuned.
I got an idea. Body Shop, here we come. Woo-hoo.